I have been frivolous, we'll say, but I have done something that I think is going to commit me to doing something that I have talked about doing and planned to do, but never really put the effort in. I did spend a good deal of money on it at one point. Masks of Nyarlathotep, it's the big one. Other than maybe The Enemy Within for Warhammer Fantasy, I don't know if there is a campaign as beefy. I mean, maybe, I don't know. And certainly with this 7th edition. But, Call of Cthulhu, it's about the handouts. And there's some beautiful handouts for this game. But then there's some more beautiful handouts. So, I thought about doing this for a long time, and I put it off, and I put it off. I finally, see, there's probably some paperwork in here. I finally did it. I finally bit the bullet. And I ordered this monster. Pardon me while I get it out of this box. See, I'll get the proof. Now there's a lot of, well, not a lot, but there's enough unboxings on this that I feel like other people have done a much better job. Probably had more interesting, I won't even say probably, they've definitely had more interesting things to say about this. But I want to take a gander primarily because I am just so excited to look at this beautiful thing. Watch me not be able to figure out how to get into it, though. So, Masks of Nyarlathotep is Call of Cthulhu campaign. From what I understand, people have said that it takes as much as like a year and a half, 2 years to go through the whole campaign. That scares me. That I find daunting. I find it daunting because I worry that I won't have that level of commitment, and I worry that I will not be able to find players who will have that level of commitment and willingness to spend 2 years or so coming back to the table to go through this entire giant campaign. But who knows, maybe these beautiful props will be what draws everyone back to the table. Here's the USB. This has, I believe, some statements from some of the NPCs read aloud by actors, and it's this cool, I like this cool prop, that just looks cool sitting on the table. There's a beautiful map. I'm not going to fold this out. Again, there are other unboxings if you want to see all this stuff taken and really shown off. Oh, do I dare? I'm not going to unroll this right now. But there's this scroll that has important clue, I guess, on it. I think it might be a spell, I'm not sure, but no, this is like really cool physical prop. I think this got redone at some point. This was originally looked different or was manufactured in a different way. I don't know what the deal is on that, and whatever, it's a beautiful prop. Oh, yeah. This is something where I think I'm going to need to get, I'm not opening this right now. This is, I believe, I think this is the passports. I may need to get some more of these at some point. I'm always worried about using props where you actually do damage to them when you use them. In the case of the passports, you're actually putting stamps on them and writing on them and that sort of thing. So, there's, if you've seen any of these things, each of the chapters from the campaign has a bunch of props in them. And there are, when you see the props that have this information on them, from what I understand, these are, I believe these are recreations of ones from the campaign. But then there are others where it's these are like new original ones, and this, it looks like it came out of a notebook. It's got this stuff all written out. I love it. I love it. I love the physicality of Call of Cthulhu. I love looking through old maps and old papers, and I just think that's just really neat. And as I think it was Marge who said, I just think it's neat. Let's see. Oh wow! Oh my goodness. Okay, there's so much in this one. I think this must be, yeah, this is America. I think this is like the New York chapter. I know there's this evidence one here that is sealed. I'm not going to look at that until it's important. Real matches. Actual. I mean, it's crazy. I love it. A letter from Carlisle. Oh no, to Carlisle. I know how to write letters. Business card. That's bum. There's like articles on newsprint, and I mean this is newsprint, and with the paper on the back, and there's a ton of it. There's a ton of these. So you can have these clippings, and it's nuts. It's beautiful. I love it. I love it. Oh, gory. But I like this. Like it's like a mock-up crime photo. All these papers. It's fantastic. Creepy. Maps. This is a gorgeous map of of Manhattan, 1925. I love it. I love it. Oh yeah, and this book cover. I'm gonna have to find a book that this fits on. I think I saw a thing saying that this is designed to fit on a specific size book. I think that maybe Arkham House publishes. I can't remember for sure, but I'll have to try to find a book that this actually fits on, so I can have a copy of Jackson Elias's book sitting at the table. I love it. I love it. This stuff is beautiful. So, this is going to push me over the edge. I am going to have to actually bite the bullet and really work on putting together another map of London. I just want to get all of these maps framed. I love maps in general. Like a bill, blueprints to something nefarious. But I'm going to have to get myself in gear and really work on putting it together. Egypt chapter. Oh man! So I saw the physical prop of the eye. I think it's the Eye of Light and Darkness, and I could not do it. I couldn't do it. It was too darned expensive. I mean, it's awesome. It looks fantastic, but I can't justify it. However, I also saw somebody make one of these out of I think it was out of clay or paper mache or something. I don't know. And it got me to thinking, I don't know. I took art in school. Maybe I could make myself one of these at some point. So we'll see. We'll see. Maybe I'll have an Eye of Light and Darkness for the players to actually hold on to. Oh man, so cool. I love it. I've been bouncing back and forth with running Call of Cthulhu and with running particularly a long campaign like Masks. wondering how I'd do it. And, I find the more I run games, the older I get, the less I want to be worrying about rules and picking through the book to try to figure out, what this or that thing means and what you have to roll at this or that time. And, Call of Cthulhu is not a crazy, heavy rules game. The Kenya section I'm really fascinated by, and I have another scenario that I may have a video up on here that takes place in Kenya in the 1890s that I've thought about trying to weave into things, because it's a really interesting part of the world where a lot of really bad stuff, a lot of really cool stuff, a lot of really just interesting stuff happening in a space of just a few decades. And so I'm very curious about the Kenya section. I think I have the Secrets of Kenya book from Chaosium from years ago too, which I have not read for sure, in the Australia chapter. Anyhow, I'm thinking about how I might. This is like a calendar. Oh my gosh, that's so cool. If I run it, probably going, well, if at this point with this amount invested in it, it's when I run it. I love this is also like all crinkled up like it's been sitting around. I will probably use Pulp Cthulhu rules, because I don't, especially on a longer game, I don't want to deal with as much character death, maybe. And I think that maybe with Pulp, that characters will have a better chance of surviving. The China section, I've been doing some research on China, in particular Beijing, and which I don't think is here. I think this maybe goes to Shanghai. But anyway, been doing a little bit of research on that, and it's a lot of really interesting stuff going on there. There's stuff from the 1800s up to the early 20th century that went on in China is really, really fascinating. So much happened in a relatively short time, and some of it's really, really interesting. Anyway, I'll probably use Pulp Cthulhu. I have been I've been kicking around the idea of using the kind of almost like ultra rules light version of basic role playing. It's not listed as that at all, but that's kind of what it functions as, called Gentlemen versus Demons. I have thought about using that, but I don't know if I want to do that in a long-term campaign or not. And I actually got to thinking recently, and I don't know why this popped into my head, but I thought that it might actually fit better if I ran Horror on the Orient Express using Gentlemen versus Demons. Maybe because of, like, I don't know, the Poirot connection? I don't know. Well, we'll see. I'm not sure. It's not going to happen right off. Chances are, I'm recording this middle of 2022. I can't imagine, because of how busy the rest of my year is looking, that I would be able to get anything going before 2023. And I don't have a regular game group that meets to try these games out, so that's another whole thing. Now, this was on sale, and it was a pretty good sale. I figured while I was on there, excuse me, H.P. Lovecraft Historical Society, which is where I bought this, they were running a sale, and they had some other items that were inexpensive anyway, but I figured I'd just throw them on because I wanted to. One of them is a clearance item for apparently an old set they did for, I think it was the campaign was the Day of the Beast, which I have somewhere, but I have not read, so I really don't know what it's about. But there's a set of blueprints for it, and it just looks really cool. for some kind of like weird, I guess, mythos tech or something. I don't know. I thought it looked really cool, and blueprints. I think that's pretty cool, and there's some blueprints in here for something. So who knows? Maybe there'll be an extra little something in there that'll really make people scratch their heads. There's also a scenario, kind of a classic scenario that just recently got reprinted in the Kickstarter thing they did, but I did not back that. Called The Auction, and they produced a like a program for the auction, and I think is this all? It's written in multiple languages. That's great. I love it. And so this is just the program for the auction, and yeah. Here's the head, which is like the famous item. So I just thought it would be cool to have this. I don't know. Maybe at some point, if they do a 7th edition update for the auction, I hope they will. That I will have a copy of the program. And while I was on there, I figured I would pick up The Curse of Race Prejudice by James F. Morton Jr. I love that they continue to sell it at the original price, because it's one of those things where it's like, you should read this. And this is from, what was this, like 1905, 1904, something like that. I don't know if it's got the date in here or not. But when I was reading it, I think it was 1906. It looks like, and I think it was a lecture, and then it turned into this pamphlet. But apparently, Morton here and Lovecraft had quite a back and forth. I haven't read it. I haven't read Lovecraft's letters, and I know that his particular predilection for kind of extreme prejudice, I think shows up mostly in his letters. I know there are people who try to read all of his fiction through the lens of racism, and I don't think that is a good way to look at it. Personally, I don't. But I do think, obviously, it leaks into his stories, but I disagree with the idea that all of his stuff is inherently that at its core. I think that he had a different concept that went into much of his writing that wasn't based in his prejudices. Obviously, though, he still had those, and that is, I'm sure, shaping of a worldview. But anyhow, very curious to check this out, and it's another one of those things that it would be nice to just have as a prop on the table. I know the last time I was running Call of Cthulhu, I had a handful of just props on the table in the center just to try to add a little bit of mood, and so something like this would be handy for doing just that. That's what I've got today. So yeah, H.P. Lovecraft Historical Society, they are knocking it out of the park. Historical Society, I'll try to say their name correctly. They're knocking it out of the park with these props. They're just beautiful. The newsprint stuff is just phenomenal. And, look, it wasn't cheap. But also, I think for what you get and the work and the love and the care that went into this, I don't think it's outlandish. And if you look at, say you take this box, which I think ended up costing me like $120 or something like that, and this campaign, this giant beast of a campaign, which I think again cost me, I don't know, $100, something like that. Okay, that's a lot of money. A guy like me, that's a lot of money. But if I run this campaign and I run this for 2 years, meeting every week or every other week for 3 or 4 hours with friends around a table, meeting each other and sharing dinner and chatting and doing this game, I think that, $220 or whatever dollars is more than worth it. When you think about the amount of time, even just reading it, the amount of time I'm going to spend reading it, let alone running the game and the fun that then I will get from running it and the fun that my players will get from playing it, I think, this is definitely of value. Now, obviously, I have to actually run it before it gains that value. So maybe come back in 3 years and see how I've gotten done. So, all right, that's what I've got for you today. Check out my stuff down below as usual. And, you've watched YouTube before. You're not new here. All right, take care.